Now at 5 and streaming on CrossroadsToday.com, the unsolved case of Kenneth Wayne Hilscher's disappearance marks 30 years as authorities continue to seek answers. The murder trial of Fernando Acosta Jr. faces a delay as new evidence prompts a reset. Plus, Phi Air Medical marks a milestone in medical transport excellence in Victoria as it celebrates 20 years.
And we could celebrate the weather as well because we've got some gorgeous weather all the way through the weekend. We'll be talking about that and taking a look at your 7-day. All that coming up in a moment.
Plus, the Supreme Court's ruling on the Alien Enemies Act is impacting deportation proceedings, drawing mixed reactions. You're watching 25 News now at 5. Good afternoon. Thanks for being with us. I'm Don Brubaker. Shauna Curry has the day off. On April 8, 1995, 36-year-old Kenneth Wayne Hilscher went missing. 30 years later, he is not forgotten. Hilscher was last seen in Bloomington at his parents' home on Black Bayou Road No. 2. His father reported him missing. Later, a blood-stained T-shirt and pair of men's briefs were found 2 miles from Hilscher's home. Authorities believe Hilscher was shot in the chest and back. Hilscher's disappearance remains unsolved and is being investigated as a homicide. If you have any information, contact the Texas Department of Public Safety at 800-346-3243. The Fernando Acosta Jr. murder trial is pushed back once again. 25 News Now reporter Ray Mosley was in Matagorda County and has the latest. Ray?
Jury selection was underway and started Monday, but today the court decided to reset the date for a new trial. The potential jurors arrived at 8:30 a.m. and the judge arrived at around 9 a.m. Defense attorneys for Fernando Acosta Jr. are Micah and Sierra Hatley. They released a statement saying that the cases continue due to late disclosed evidence by the state. That evidence was disclosed after the trial had started. It involved misconduct by current and former law enforcement officers and witnesses that were not disclosed until the first day of trial. The only remedy for the court is to move the case to a new date to give both sides an opportunity to investigate the conduct and other material related to that new evidence. The new date for the trial is set Monday, September 8th, 2025, with the status conference set for July 17th. Reporting from Matagorda County, Ray Mosley, KAVU-TV, 25 News Now.
Here's a look at the timeline in this case. On April 16, 2021, Amanda Johnson was reported missing from Victoria. The next day, she was found murdered in a burned vehicle on a rural Matagorda County road. The suspect in her case, Fernando Acosta Jr., was indicted on June 21, 2021. A judge denied his request for a bond reduction a few weeks later in July. Several trial dates were reset, including in November 2023, February 2024, and May 2024. Then, almost 4 years to the day, the trial started Monday with jury selection. Now the trial is reset again for a status conference on July 17th. This brings us to our viewer poll today. What is your confidence in the prosecutors handling the Amanda Johnson murder case? Very confident, somewhat confident, or not confident? And right now the needle is showing somewhat unconfident. Well, we thank you for voting and we want to hear from you. Visit crossroadstoday.com/vote to take part, and we'll have the latest results at 6. A vital part of healthcare in the Crossroads celebrates 20 years of service to the area, and that's not all. With over 5,000 air transports under their wings, Phi Air Medical has led the way with their medical transport service with Citizens Medical Center. Jeremy Thompson with Phi Air Medical credits keeping up with technology while keeping a good relationship with citizens for their success.
Over time, we've evolved the care that's available on the helicopter to the needs of the region and the state.
Included in today's event was the unveiling of a new home base for the Air Medical team based at Citizens, which includes several bedrooms, kitchen, full bath, and conference room. Let's go to Mac Pettis with a first look at the forecast. I'm telling you, Mac, you're on a winning streak again.
Yes, I am. I wish I had a penny for every one of these winning streaks I'm getting, but you're the winners for this because we got some gorgeous weather out there again today, and the next few days seem just as nice. We take a look at the big picture because there is a little front out there on the west coast that'll make it through here over the weekend, and it may bring us slightly cooler temperatures, but more than importantly, it'll bring us more dry air. And we'll be talking all about that coming up in just a few minutes. Don, back to you.
Thank you, Mac. Monday, a federal judge in Texas struck down a controversial Biden administration nursing home staffing rule. The mandate would have required nursing homes to meet a minimum staffing number. The rule was finalized last April, but it was quickly challenged in court by nursing home operators and their trade associations. They said nursing homes already struggle to fill open positions. The industry trade group said the mandate would have required more than 100,000 new hires at an annual cost of nearly $7 billion. The judge ruled that regulation must be consistent with congressional legislation that oversees nursing homes. The Supreme Court says the Trump administration can temporarily use the Alien Enemies Act for deportations. It's a 1798 law that gives the government certain powers during declared wars, as well as actual or threatened invasions or incursions. It's what the U.S. used to detain Japanese nationals during World War II. The administration wants to use it to deport Venezuelan nationals, it says, has gang ties. A Supreme Court ruling last night does not decide the merits of that argument. It's more procedural than that.
This is a win for the Trump administration.
The Supreme Court is allowing deportation proceedings under the Alien Enemies Act for now, but with stipulations. The ruling throws out a U.S. district judge's order. President Donald Trump says on social media it's, quote, a great day for justice.
You can use these additional authorities, such as the Alien Enemies Act, to target these terrorist organizations.
But the Supreme Court says the men involved in the case can challenge the use of the Alien Enemies Act. They just have to do so in the district where they're detained. The justices say anyone facing deportation under the wartime law should have that opportunity. The ACLU calls that a victory. It comes after ICE sent alleged Venezuelan gang members to an El Salvador prison while legal challenges were still playing out.
They actually, as a practical matter, can get to the courts and not be whisked away in the middle of the night like was originally done in this case.
Another ruling from the Supreme Court yesterday involves a Maryland man erroneously deported to El Salvador. The justices say the U.S. doesn't have to bring him back for now.
That they can whisk someone out of the country by accident and then have no responsibility to fix, what they've broken just doesn't make sense as a legal matter and is also just disturbing as a matter of constitutional law.
I'm Mimi Kiley reporting.
The White House says that mistaken deportation was due to an administrative error. Advocates say it raises questions about how ICE verified potential gang ties and the other people it sent to prison in El Salvador. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is in Panama meeting with the country's leaders. Hegseth met with Panama's President Jose Raul Mulino at the presidential palace Tuesday. The meeting comes as the Trump administration pushes to take control of the Panama Canal. President Trump has threatened to retake the waterway, arguing that the U.S. is being overcharged for using it and that China is exerting too much influence over the canal. Speaking at a pier on the canal, Hegseth pledged that the U.S. would work with Panama to keep the canal secure.
China did not build this canal. China does not operate this canal. And China will not weaponize this canal. Together with Panama in the lead, we will keep the canal secure and available for all nations through the deterrent power of the strongest, most effective, and most lethal fighting force in the world.
A Hong Kong-based conglomerate agreed to sell its controlling stake in a subsidiary that operates ports near the Panama Canal to a consortium including American-owned BlackRock. That deal still requires approval from Panama's government. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell. Then you can see Crossroads Today on YouTube. And stay with us straight ahead on 25 News now at 5. An update on the Texas measles outbreak and its alarming spread. Also, find out why Texas' iconic springtime bloom is looking a bit sparse this year. The Texas measles outbreak has now surpassed 500 cases. The latest numbers were released today by the Texas Department of State Health Services, which said 505 cases have been identified since the outbreak began in late January. There have been 2 deaths in school-aged children who were not vaccinated and had no known underlying condition. Only 10 of the 505 cases have been confirmed to be vaccinated. The virus has now spread to 21 counties, with all but 3 of those in West Texas. It's a disease that's increasingly being diagnosed in younger adults, and many times when those younger than age 50 find out they have colorectal cancer. It's after the disease has progressed to an advanced stage, making it harder to treat. But there are several tests that can not only detect this cancer, but potentially prevent it. And some can be done at home. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither talks to a gastroenterologist about which colon cancer screening is right for you.
Overall, in the U.S., colorectal cancer cases have declined the past several decades. And while it's still more common for older adults to have the disease, the number of people younger than age 50 being diagnosed continues to rise.
Proportion of colorectal cancer in young adults less than age 50 has actually doubled.
Dr. Jewel Sameter with Mayo Clinic says several tests can detect and potentially prevent colorectal cancer. Most major health organizations now recommend those at average risk of developing the disease to start screening at age 45.
The gold standard here is really colonoscopy, where we take a flexible tube which has a camera on it. It's inserted into your colon.
Since a colonoscopy is more invasive, Sameter says there are 3 others to consider. First, a stool-based test. It can be done at home. The sample is collected and mailed in. But he says this test is expensive, and if it detects something off, you'll still need to undergo a colonoscopy. Next, a CT colonography. He says it uses X-rays to reconstruct 3D images of the colon. It's less invasive than a colonoscopy and doesn't require sedation, but a bowel preparation will still be needed. Finally, a blood test. It looks for small fragments of tumor DNA when colorectal cancer is present, but he says it's less accurate than other screenings.
The one that the patient elects and actually completes, that's the best test for them.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Bipartisan support for a Texas bill clarifying when doctors can perform an abortion shows early cracks. To read this full Texas Tribune article, visit our website, crossroadstoday.com. Well, if you've been out driving and feel like something's missing, you're not wrong. Texas' beloved bluebonnets, a sure sign of spring, are not showing up like they usually do. Drought conditions have put a damper on this year's wildflower season, and in some spots, fans say it just doesn't feel like spring without them. Here's more on what's behind the bluebonnet shortage.
It's unsettling because that's part of Texas. And when you don't have your bluebonnets, it's not the same.
A springtime staple in Texas is looking a little sparse this year. Bluebonnets, usually blanketing highways and parks, are harder to spot around Corpus Christi this wildflower season.
There is a significant reduction in bluebonnets all across South Texas. You drive along the roadways, you'll see a few here and there. Usually we're seeing entire blankets of bluebonnets.
The drought that started last fall has stunted the flower's growing cycle.
And that's when many wildflowers are germinating. They'll become small plants, and then when spring rains come, those plants go from being dormant to growing very quickly and putting out flowers.
Executive Director of the South Texas Botanical Gardens, Michael Womack, says we may see a few more blooms, just not the sea of blue we've come to expect. For Texans, these are more than just flowers.
It kind of breaks up the monotony when it's out there, because you really, see them growing and stuff.
They're just what Texas is about, is your bluebonnets.
Well, I don't want to disagree with Dr. Womack there, because I know him quite well, but I've seen quite a few bluebonnets, so maybe he hadn't been around, or maybe he hadn't been around the crossroads. Right now, we're looking for just a beautiful day out there, lots of sunshine, 76 degrees, fairly low humidity as we continue getting those northerly winds. We managed to get up to only 76 today, which is even cooler than we're supposed to be, around 80 degrees. Kind of chilly this morning, but not too bad. We'll be talking about what to expect for the rest of the week coming up right after this. Well, the abundant sunshine was certainly out there today, and for some of you, it's something to rejoice. And for some of you, are going, whoa, it's a bit too hot, or maybe I can't handle it, because low humidity, brilliant sun, middle of the day. The heat index is up at 9 all the way through the next few days. You can see all the way through Saturday. And of course, 9 is pretty elevated. And so some folks that are sensitive, either sunglasses or the skin cream to protect you from the sun rays. Other people want to go out and get a tan, so it's all up to you, okay? Now, winds are so light, they're not even registering on the a graph here, and you can see how we do have a little bit of a sea breeze blowing down along the coast, but by and large, we've got low humidity, very comfortable weather. Night times are going to be very comfortable tonight. Evening is just going to be spectacular to go walk the dog or something like that. Otherwise, we take a look at the big picture, and cold air is rolling this way, so it's going toward the east coast as finally that monster storm finally moves offshore. What we have here is a warming trend. You can see the warm front right here in the southwestern part of the country. Until this ridge passes us, basically moving to the east, we're going to continue with a dry northwest wind, and that just gives us some delightful weather. Way out here on the Pacific, there's a front that will slowly cross the Rockies, but as it does, it's going to wring itself out, not going to have much to deal with when it finally gets into Texas. At this point in time, it's only going to be a resurgence of more dry air to keep the good weather going. So, this is really, you couldn't write this. This is a perfect scenario. Spring, planting, big rain, beautiful weather. Hey, how about that? Worked out really good. Tomorrow you should get up to the low 80s, and we'll get up into the mid 80s. Here's that little front comes in on Friday, but you'll feel a little bit of a north wind on Saturday, but because of the direct sun and the low humidity, it'll get up to about 85. So we can get a north wind and still warm up a little bit higher. Future Tracker is kind of bored today. It has nothing to do, nothing to track. Look at that. We go through Thursday. Beautiful weather. We go through Friday, still lots of sunshine. We go through Friday night. When that little front goes through, you hardly notice it. And then as we go all the way to the weekend, things are still looking pretty good. Early next week, there's a little front that may be a little stronger, and so we'll watch and wait for it. But in the meantime, it's awfully nice out there. Looking for a low tonight of about 50 degrees, so cool and dry, relatively low humidity, no fog expected. And then tomorrow with the abundant sunshine, you'll get up to about 82 here at the Crossroads, 83 in Houston, 91 out in San Antonio, and 96 out in the Laredo area. So yeah, let's go to Port Lavaca. It's going to be lovely. Look at that. Gentle winds out of the south, abundant sunshine, comfortable temperatures in the 80s. Why not? Or you could go to Port O'Connor, you could do that too. Otherwise, looking lots of sunshine in Cuero, relatively nice winds, up to about 84 is a high temperature. And frankly, we've got very little weather to deal with over the next few days. A little breezy coming back from the southeast Wednesday. Thursday, the same thing. Front comes through, changes the wind around for about a day, but as we get back to Saturday and Sunday, we'll be back up to the 80s, and a few more clouds will show up in the skies as we get to the early part of next week. That is your 7-day forecast, reminding everybody we do have a QR code. Love for you to scan that, put Crossroads Today on your phone, and we'll toss it back to Don.
Thank you, Mac. And coming up on 25 News Now at 5, learn how AI is reshaping hiring, enhancing job seekers' chances by spotting top candidates. A massive rally on Wall Street Tuesday ended with another sizable decline. Cheap stocks and hope for signs of trade negotiations sent markets surging Tuesday morning, but that shifted after the White House said it would levy enormous tariffs on China. The Dow fell 320 points, while the S&P 500 fell 1.57%, 80 points. The tech-heavy NASDAQ composite slid 2.15%, 335 points. Oil down $2.47 to $59.58 a barrel. A settlement was reached Sunday on the eve of a civil trial against Boeing by two of the families of passengers killed in a 2019 737 MAX crash. Jury selection was set to start Monday morning in Chicago. Antoine Lewis and Darcy Belanger were among the 150 people killed when the Ethiopian Airlines flight slammed into the ground after takeoff from an airport in Ethiopia. A similar crash in 2018 involved a Lion Air 737 MAX. More civil trials for other family members are scheduled. A criminal case against Boeing is set to start June 23rd. The company is accused of defrauding the Federal Aviation Administration during the process of certifying the 737 MAX to carry its first passengers. The CEO of J.P. Morgan is sounding the alarm bell about President Trump's tariff policy. In his annual letter to shareholders, Jamie Dimon wrote the tariffs are likely to increase inflation and slow down growth. Dimon also warned that tariffs, along with Trump's American First policy, could undermine America's position in the world. He had recently argued the U.S. economy appeared to be in solid shape, but Dimon struck a different tone in this letter, writing the U.S. and the world face the most perilous economic environment since World War II. Stock markets in Asia and Europe plunged Monday, and futures pointed that U.S. stocks will follow suit. Companies are increasingly using artificial intelligence to sort through applicants before they reach a human recruiter. And that could be good news for job seekers. Nearly half of hiring managers report using AI to screen resumes and applications. Data from job seeker resource site Resume Genius shows an HR advisory firm says new AI tools can understand the content of a resume, meaning they can help spot candidates even if their resumes don't mention certain key words. Coming up, Disney's Animal Kingdom welcomes a towering new arrival. Find out why this birth is cause for celebration. Mickey, Donald, say hi to Tucker. This baby Maasai giraffe is the newest addition to Disney's Animal Kingdom in Orlando. He's the third calf a giraffe named Mara has had since coming to the park in 2015. Every birth is important because giraffe populations are declining. Maasai giraffes are one of 4 different species of giraffes, and they are all considered vulnerable. Tucker's arrival adds to the genetic diversity and the health of the Maasai giraffe population. So the experts are saying that we need more giraffes, and when they say that, they say they're not sticking their neck out.
They are in this particular case, Don. They're sticking their neck out.
Really?
And of course, you know, they have these necks so they can eat the vegetation from the trees. You know, so it's like they're naturally adapted to living in the forest. And they don't have to go down very far either.
Yeah, Africa and places like that.
You bet.
Oh,
All right, folks. Well, we are just doing great here. We've got some gorgeous weather. In the next 3 days, you'll see a little bit of an onshore flow, but we don't expect all that humidity back. In fact, that little front on Friday will actually give us more dry air. So we're going to stay in, shall we say, sunny skies and pleasant weather with cool evenings and sunny, warm days. Don couldn't ask for more.
Well, I'll bring in something negative. I guess if people need to burn outside, and there are some in our area who do, I guess the weather is not good for that.
Well, I would say always be cautious. They may drop the county burn bans now that we had the big rain.
Right.
But you know, everything, we're waiting for everything to turn green for springtime. Then we'll be in better shape.
All right. Thank you, Mac. Thanks for being with us. Our next newscast in 30 minutes, World News Tonight with David Muir.